Pitchers, man, I don't know how you do it, man. My arm hurts playing first base.
Yeah. I throw five
I'm out there
balls
throwing
across
BP. I'm like, I don't got it today.
I throw five balls across the diamond. I'm like, Haas, I'm gonna need you today, bud. This is not getting there.
Yeah. Sit back, boys. I'm going on a little run.
Here we go.
I'm going to give you my run on Steele, what I got on him, what I got from facing him, what I got playing with him, all that kind of thing. So I remember, for those of you who don't know, all of you guys know, big league clubhouses, there's TVs everywhere in a big league clubhouse. So obviously the day that you're facing us, I was with San Diego, we're seeing Justin Steele all throughout the TVs, all throughout the laptops, computers, all that is, because you're prepping for the starter. So you basically know these guys in and out, right, Moose? Like, you know the numbers on your fastball, 93 to 95 with this spin, all that. So you essentially know everything about it. So knowing the type of hitter I am, I'm like, okay, this is lefty, 93, 94, 95, 96, whatever it is, a little cut. I'm like, this is a decent matchup for me. You know what I mean? Anything going away from me, that's okay.
I got a chance.
Anything coming in, I'm especially from a lefty, a sinker, something like that. So I'm like, okay, I think I got this guy. We're good. You know what I mean? We're going to go. This is going to be a good day. Facing Steele, first at bat. It's like a little bit of cut that way. And I think I ended up punching out that time. And it's like, okay, like he got me there, but I see the movement. I'm okay. It's like, I think I got this. I'm good here. Next at bat, I come up and you just saw me off with a two-seamer, just like ground ball to the pitcher, saw me off two-seam. Third at bat, a mixture, two-seam cut, slider, boom, how you doing? The crew reminded me I'm over 3 with 2 strikeouts against Steele. That's fine. Thank you very much. So didn't know much about you other than those 3 at-bats. And then I signed with Chicago. I'm there for spring training. And obviously as a player, especially an older guy, you're evaluating guys, you know, seeing how the team is. So Steele, this is guys going to be in the rotation. This is going to be a guy middle of the rotation, whatever. Same thing, 93, 95, first spring outing, second spring outing, you're dealing, he's shoving. And I'm like, man, this is wild because like the numbers I'm seeing, the stuff, like this is going to get hit at some point in time, right? Like respectfully, it's going to happen. And it went all the way up until now. Like you've just been dominant. And the funny thing is, before talking about you here, Moose was talking about the same thing and he goes, Steele, and I said to somebody, watch, he's going to say literally exactly what I just said. And he goes, you see the report on him and the ball just does something different every single time. So people don't know what your ball's doing up there. But
that's a good thing. We got to keep it that way.
And you have, you know, you've come accustomed to it and grown confidence because metrically, that was something that always people and organizations talked about. This isn't going to last. It's not sustainable because these numbers, these metrics, you've had the confidence to kind of work through that and be an ace, be a guy.
Yeah.
Talk about now, future, you're going to Japan. I don't know if that's announced yet. We won't talk about it unless it is, but you're a guy now. So to see that growth and that confidence that you've always had, where's that come from? Is that just Louisiana boy, Mississippi, wherever it is?
I mean, I grew up in a very competitive household. My dad, he was a great athlete. He played football at Alabama. He was a wide receiver and stuff. So me and my brother growing up, it was just competition in every form or fashion, whether it was ping pong, pool, playing horse, playing basketball. We played all sports. So my dad kind of had that design at a young age. My brother was 5 years older than me, so I was fighting for my life every day. Especially when the parents aren't home after work and we're at the house for 3 hours by ourselves. So I was fighting for my life.
Earn that lunch.
Yeah, but a lot of it came from them. Pitching, especially my brother, he played baseball. I was following him around at travel ball tournaments. You know, through high school, he played college ball as well. So I learned a ton from him just being a competitor and that stuff. And then once I got into pro ball, just the pitches that I had was kind of the package that I had. So I just learned to pitch with what I had and, you know, got pretty good at it, got to the big leagues, got my foot in the door, started in the bullpen, then moved to the rotation once we made some trades and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the competition stuff, I kind of attribute that to my dad and my brother just with the upbringing they brought me up in.
So we talk about this all the time. For an athlete, even for an athlete like myself, 10 years in the big leagues, you get to that year 11, year 12, and you see younger guys having success doing something a different way. And you see these metrics, you see these numbers, and there comes a point in time, and I think you can probably speak on this a little bit, you come to a point in time as an athlete of, not going good for me now, like, do I need to start buying into this stuff a little bit? So for you to show that confidence is something I admire and look up to, because I think that is something right now for an athlete in this time is super hard to work through and have the confidence to say, no, that's not me. I know who I am.
That's what actually what I was going to ask you is so many times you've seen it throughout probably in the minor leagues. you feel this is what works for you, but the data and the metrics and coaches are saying, no, this is going to work for you. How do you know what works? I'm sure you all experienced it. So how did you do that? Did you ever experience that?
For me, coming up through the minor leagues, I always had a good four seam, and I always was able to spin the ball, throw curveballs, sliders, kind of make it break how I wanted to. And that was like my bread and butter, and that's why I was good. When I got into like low A, high A, double A, they were kind of pushing on me like, hey, if you're going to want to be a starting pitcher at the big league level, you're going to have to start learning a changeup, learning a sinker. And I pretty much like didn't abandon the other two pitches, but I was like, all right, this is what I got to learn for me to get to the big leagues. And it didn't really go that well. I mean, you kind of abandon what got you there. You start working on things that they want you to work on. And when in reality, I should have just been leaning on those the entire time, and then just kind of let the other pitches develop as they should and stuff. But that was kind of the trial and error for me coming through the minor leagues was, using my bread and butter to, climb through the ladder and stuff, but also developing those other pitches when I needed them. And at the big league level, I've, come to learn that I do need those pitches. Like he's saying to lefties, I started developing the sinker going in on the hands to the lefties, especially guys that would get comfortable face me, leaning out over, just pop the sinker in. It kind of changes the whole at bat for me. And then same thing with the changeup to the righties.
Awesome. Booster, the talk in a big league clubhouse about a guy like Steele in a hitter's meeting is legitimately, I don't think this guy knows what his ball does. I don't think he knows if it cuts, sinks. Like that's kind of the adversity you're facing when you're going up against Steele's fastball.
Yeah, so we were talking before you got here. I was convinced I had faced you at least a handful of times, and it turns out I never did other than spring training. And I'm like looking back on it, I'm like, well, thank God, because nobody thought I had a chance against you. So like, but like you get into the box, and I think I faced you last spring. And you're like, okay, you got the four-seamer away. And I think you went two-seamer into my hands, and I think my bat exploded into 15 pieces. I think it was a little dribbler right back to you. But when you throw into the zone and you just let your stuff do what it does, like, how did you get the confidence to get there?
Just trial and error, failing through the minor leagues, not quite getting the four in there enough and it getting hit for a homer. That's just trial and error, just learning through the minor leagues. And same thing with the sinker. I learned that pretty quickly it's not as effective to righties as it is to lefties just because it's boring in on their hands the entire time. As for a righty, it kind of goes back towards their barrel, especially if they're kind of thinking forcing going in on their hands. It kind of leaks back towards the barrel, so the changeup's a better option for them because it dives a little bit more. And then just playing the fastballs off of that and stuff, getting the four up, kind of creating that ride or making it cut a little bit more. But hitter's not thinking that I don't know exactly where it's going. It's kind of plays in my favor, so I like that.
That's awesome.
I want to go back to the minor leagues real quick. So you had TJ in the minor leagues, then you came back, got to double A, and then felt like COVID was right after that?
Yes, sir.
Talk me through that period real quick.
So I had TJ in August of 2017, and so I rehabbed it was like I call it like an 8-9 month injury, and I was back into games because the upcoming season was a 40-man decision year for me. So I was trying to get back into games and try and make it a tough decision for them to put me on the 40-man. So I came back like extremely quick.
Did you have full TJ?
Yeah, it was.
And you came back in 8 months?
Yeah, it was a 100% tear. Like it was one pitch. I never really had elbow issues leading up to it. It was just one pitch in high A and it went. I didn't know what happened. I threw like 3 more pitches.
Same.
And it was like, they were like 93-mile-an-hour fastballs. Like nothing really changed, but I could just kind of feel something was off. Ended up being a tear, had Tommy John. I want to say I had the Tommy John, and it was like August 22nd of 2017. I was back in games like August or maybe even before August, like actual live game action. Yeah. I finished the year that I went to Double A to finish that year, pitched in the fall league, and then they made a decision to put me on the 40-man. Following year, I go to Double A. That was my first big league spring training stuff. Go to Double A. I ended up hurting my oblique in Double A pretty early on in that season, and then COVID happened, went to the alt site, and that's kind of where things really took off for me. I developed the slider there at that point. At that time, it was probably my best pitch, and it kind of shot me into the big leagues, got into the bullpen role, and the rest is history, kind of.
Where was the alt site for the Cubbies?
South Bend. It was just south of Chicago. It was literally an hour and a half from Chicago, so it was an easy commute to like get up to Chicago if they needed me.
What about now? Like I just said, you've always had that confidence. You've always just kind of like, one of the things I've always loved about every starter I've played with, a handful of guys like yourself as well, is you can't tell whether or not it's their start day. Like you just have that same demeanor. Mm-hmm. Certain guys, it's their start day. You know what I mean? They're just like, don't touch my music, and they're just all uptight and all that stuff. So in the minor leagues, you weren't really a prospect, you know what I mean? So how has that now helped you being a guy that is looked at as a frontline starter, not only, you know, for the Cubs, but essentially for the league? And the whole league knows that if the Cubs were to move on for you, which they probably weren't, you would be in the front end of anybody's rotation. Do you now relate to a guy that maybe doesn't have, or on the team that doesn't have that prime time role, and you can kind of be a leader and talk to the guys now?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully for the guys that are coming up through the minor leagues now that necessarily like might have a similar profile to me, like stuff like kind of like you're saying that doesn't necessarily jump off the page, like 92, 95, nothing crazy, but can learn how to pitch, use what they use to get outs. I think it's just a good message for those guys that are coming up through the minor leagues or on the brink of breaking in the big leagues. Like, if you have the stuff and the want to, like you're able to do it. You just gotta have to put yourself in the right position and the right situations and stuff. You know, you don't have to throw 100 to get outs in this league. A lot of guys that do throw 100 get hit around. We see it all the time, every day. So just kind of knowing what you're doing is a little more important. And on the guys that are coming up through the minor leagues now, it's just a good lesson for them as well.
Maybe you touched on it just now, but something we often talk about is not just the successes that you've had throughout your career, but also some of those failures that have helped shape who you are, maybe on the field, maybe it's off the field. But talk to us about some of those tough times that have shaped who you are today.
Yeah, low A was one of them years for me. It was like kind of like what I was saying. I was really wanting to hammer down on a sinker and change up when in reality, I hadn't really thrown them that much leading up to that point, but I was wanting to show to the Cubs that I could develop other pitches, get outs with them and stuff like that. So that year for me was a very big learning experience. It was the first time as a baseball player probably that I had failed, like didn't put up good numbers. So for me to be able to like swallow that, be able to just know confidently that I can come back from this, it was because I was trying to learn something. And doing that at a young age can be very hard. So kids coming out of high school and stuff, it can be like, oh, I'm in pro ball now, my stuff's getting hit around, da-da-da. But in reality, if you're putting the lessons in front of you in the right way, it's like I'm trying to learn something, right foot forward, everything along those lines, you kind of end up in the right position. You just gotta take everything as a learning lesson.
That's cool. Did you say that was one of the first times you failed?
Yeah.
That big?
Low A, South Bend, so 2016. That was probably the first year I'd ever failed.
I always love asking that questions to pro athletes. That question is, when was the first time you remember failing big? What would you guys say in your guys' careers?
Oh, dude, the Midwest League. I still have nightmares.
That was the Midwest League for me.
Put me in the big leagues. Do not put me in the Midwest League. I wouldn't be able to survive that league. I feel like if you go look at some high-level big league talent, you go look at their first year in low A, especially in the Midwest League, it's a culture shock, man. Because I think a lot of guys are coming from Florida, California, maybe Texas, warm weather. I remember we were in Kane County. This is the year after you got drafted. We were in Kane County. It's like probably 18, 20 degrees, raining. I mean, the whole day. And I'm thinking, oh, there ain't no way in hell we're playing tonight. And sure enough, dude, 7 o'clock came. We weren't delayed 1 minute. Didn't stop raining. And I'm like, this is different for me, man. I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. And then you finally like get to summer, it gets warmer, and you feel like you have a chance, but you're already 2 months in at that point, and that's tough, man. That's a tough bounce back.
I experienced the same thing when I first got to South Bend. My first start, it was in the snow, and it just snowed for the first time ever in my hometown this year. And so like that was a culture shock, just being cold every day, snowing. I pitched in the snow. I mean, I'll never forget that. It was such a culture shock. Yeah.
I feel like too, so like the rise of like a superstar or frontline starter for a guy is you get called up to the big leagues, you get that first taste. The next year you come up, you start to have success. Then the next year you have even more success, you become an all-star. Then it's like after that, you're like, man, this is where the leadership really starts to come out, because now you're like, I want to win and I want to find ways to talk to these young pitchers and tell them, hey, listen, don't go through these failures that I've learned from. Like, just listen to me and get this through. So I feel like right now, that's where you're at in your point in time in your career, especially in Chicago, man. That's got to be a blast, because you know the Cubbies out there, they show you nothing but love in Chicago, especially if you're winning. Oh, so yeah. What's your outlook now being that leader, being that guy? Like you said, your big brothers were so big on you. You know, you're going to be that big brother in the clubhouse now. Is that kind of set in for you?
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs have been such a great organization to me. They drafted me in 2014. I've been with them the entire time. So just having the familiarity around the locker room, around not just the clubhouse in Chicago now, but even Arizona. I've spent so much time in Arizona at this clubhouse. know all the faces, all the connections I have and stuff. So my hat's off to them. I mean, they stuck with me through the failures and stuff, through low A and stuff, stayed the course with me and whatnot. But it definitely helps. And I don't like saying I am a leader, but it, you know, being that I've been in the organization so long, we signed free agents and stuff, like they're able to come up to me and talk to me, ask questions about the organization stuff just because I've been around it so long. And that's something I do a great job of. When guys come from other organizations, I probably did it to you as well. I ask questions about like, how was the Padres? Like how are things ran over there? Because I've only known one organization. I like to know how other organizations are ran as well. And the common factor is like everyone loves how the Cubs do it. They always compare the other teams to the Cubs and how things are ran differently and stuff. But back to the leadership thing, it really helps a ton just being so familiar with everything, the teammates, the staff and everything, and just makes me more comfortable being myself around the clubhouse.
Can you remember a single moment where the shift was, hey, I'm not just the young wide-eyed kid anymore, I'm actually looked at as someone who people are going to come to and ask for advice?
I would say in 2022, in that second half, and oddly enough, it was around the time I became a father, and I kind of feel like I kicked it into another gear. I was kind of playing for something a little more than myself at that point. So I would say around that time is when I kind of took the shift, took the responsibility of my everyday work and everything, and I would say probably July of 22 is when it kind of kicked in.
Amazing.
How about off the field too, Steele? Because I know when I was with you in the Cubbies, your wife was going through some stuff, and that's just part of it, man.
Yep.
Becoming an older player in the league, you have a family, like you said, and there's different things that, again, you were able to just keep such a good demeanor. And until I heard about the story, because obviously, I'll let you tell it, your wife is raising awareness about, go ahead and say it, Lyme's disease. I'm sorry for saying it, but for you, like for me, I was like, holy shit, man, like he's been going through this the whole time, and this side of, you know, his family life. I don't see it in the clubhouse. I don't see it when you're starting. So like, man, that takes someone strong.
Yeah, and I do a good job of separating home life and baseball life. And when things at home, you know, with Lyme disease and everything that all the battles we're battling, you know, on the home front, you kind of have to be able to shift like, all right, like all of this is stressful. Now I get to go to the field and kind of like be free, work on what I want to work on, the things I want to think about necessarily, because the home life can definitely consume you sometimes, and the last thing you want to do is that leak into the baseball life or vice versa. So I do a really good job of separating the two, but I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things you kind of have to look at it as like, this is stressful. I'm going to go to the baseball field now and relax and be with my teammates, you know, chop it up in the lunchroom, do whatever, throw my bullpen and like focus on what I want to focus on. And then once I'm done with that, you know, like I said, vice versa, you just kind of don't take that back home with you. Once I get back home, it's, you know, it's my wife, it's Bo, it's taking care of them, doing what I need to do there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what Lyme's disease is?
So it's a chronic disease. It can affect people in a bunch of different ways. For her, it's like a lot of neurological problems. It's balance, vertigo, feeling weak, just not able to function. You know, especially her, she was very active when we first met. We played tennis all the time. So just those kind of things end up taking a toll. We've been battling it for 2.5 years now. I would say around the point of after she gave birth to our son is when it really started kicking in. We don't know if that had some kind of effect with it, because Lyme disease is one of those things, like you can get it when you're a kid and it might not necessarily affect you, but it can lay dormant inside of you for years upon years and you can never experience anything. But what we think it happened is, you know, her giving birth might have like activated it, turned it on, and like it's just kind of been an uphill battle ever since. But here lately we've been seeing some good doctors, getting her on some good protocols, and she's been doing better.
Well,
so
happy to hear
yeah,
that.
it's been awesome.
It's interesting. You did say something interesting, how you said how in spite of the hardship, particularly with your wife and going on, it's funny. It's not funny, but you said then you go to the field, you go to work where I could be more relaxed. So what I laugh about, what is funny is like, you're a professional athlete, one of the best in the game at the highest level. And it's always interesting talking to pro athletes how no matter what the storm is off the field or off the court or off the course, you're always like, they feel more comfortable between the lines. It's like, hey, give me a ball, put a guy in the box. I feel more comfortable there than dealing with all the other stuff. And so how did you separate for players who struggle to separate off field, on field? What advice do you have to like do? How do you do it?
It's something I've always been able to do, even when I was growing up. Like if I had a bad game or something, like the car ride, like I wouldn't even necessarily talk about it. Like I didn't need to talk about it. Like I was very aware of what was happening. Like if I had a bad game, I had a bad game. I would try to make the adjustments moving forward and stuff, but I never like really let it affect me. Now it's a little different in the big leagues. If I get roughed up on the mound in the big leagues, I'm probably a little beat up, tail tucked between my legs and stuff when I'm going home and stuff. But I, just look at it from a growing perspective. Losses are just learning lessons, and that's how you have to look at it. And as far as separating it, like I said, it was just something I was always able to do. And for guys that might struggle with it, I would suggest like maybe being able to meditate, mentally separate the two and just kind of focus on that. I do a lot of meditation. I try to meditate every single day before I leave the house and go to the field. I like to clear the mind, be in a good state of mind when I go to the field and stuff.
How do you because I'm an ADD kid, right?
Yeah.
And my focus level, I read 2 lines of a book and I'm talking about everything else that's outside. I can't focus on anything. The thought of meditation frightens me a little bit, just sitting there with my own thoughts. The only time that I've found a way that I can actually lock in is driving home from the stadium. There's a 45-minute window where I'll just turn the radio off and I'll just drive, and I'll drive in silence and I'll run through some thoughts. But how do you go about it?
Usually when I meditate every day, it's either like when I'm, in the morning I'm showering or stuff. Right before I get out of the shower, I'll take like a minute to 5 minutes, however many breaths I need. I count 5 seconds on the inhale, I hold it for 5 seconds, and then I breathe out slowly for 5 seconds. And I'll do that from anywhere from a minute and a half to 5 minutes. And once I feel like I'm kind of like in a calm state, I usually say a prayer, give everything that I'm thankful for, just kind of have a good conversation with God. And then that's how I start my day.
God, I wish I would have had you in my clubhouse. You would have helped me out a lot, bud.
We can still work on that now if you'd like. We can get through some meditation, some morning meditation.
Haas always said, I was the guy that took stuff home. Like 0 for 5, 3 punch outs. It was a bad day. And when I made my transition to like separating, it was when I had my first daughter, and Haas says it all the time. And to me, to come home to something like that, like you have your son, it just changed who I was. And, I was like, oh, my performance, my kid doesn't care who I am on the baseball field. And it's just so nice to hear that from you, dude. I feel like you got it locked in right now.
Oh yeah. When you have a kid, bringing kids into the world is God's gift to us. It's the most beautiful thing, and it just changes you as a human, as a person, as going from just a normal man to a father. It just changes completely how you look at everything.
Absolutely.
How about now getting to a point in your career now, like with the Chicago fan base, where, they're essentially fighting the ups and downs with you because they know everything about you. They know everything about Justin Steele. They know all that type of stuff. But at the same time, it's led you, when you're playing in a big market, to really pursue some cool opportunities. I was on with Barstool. You had the podcast with Barstool. Have you realized that now, how big of a market you're playing in Chicago and how the opportunities can come up?
Oh yeah, just as soon as I got into the big leagues and stuff, kind of got my foot in the door and whatnot, you start getting deals, things start popping up to you and whatnot, and then it's your decision whether you want to, pursue that or do your due diligence and stuff. But it's awesome. I enjoy everything that comes with it. Chicago's a great city. It's one of the better cities, I would say, to be a pro athlete in, with all the restaurants, all the connections and stuff. It's awesome, especially with the fans.
Do you think players can juggle having podcasts and, doing I think pitchers as well, you have so much time.
I would say that.
Whoa. Starters have so much time.
Pitchers have a lot of time. They have a lot of time.
I would say it's like a specific kind of player that's able to kind of balance all of that. Like Ian Happ, for instance, like he does such a great.
A couple guys.
Yeah, they do such a great job of balancing, kind of like what I was saying, like separating the locker room, the ball field from the podcast or whatever they may be doing. Even if you are talking about baseball in that setting, it can still be separated from the other ones. So I feel like the guys that are in those realms doing those things, it takes like a certain kind of personality, someone that can separate it.
Yeah, and you definitely want that as a fan because you want to grow the game as much as possible. How about when you go back home? Do you feel now, just say it's going to your old high school to throw or do something, do you feel now like when the kids are looking up to you, and I'm sure you just love to stop and give back, but I'm sure you feel it as well.
Oh yeah, I do stuff with my high school baseball team all the time. We have a golf tournament we put on back home to raise money for the high school team in their upcoming season. So I always go home for that, play golf with everybody, the alumni, the kids that are currently playing. So that's always a good event. I always go back to the high school and play catch with my old pitching coach and stuff. You know, just it always feels good to go back to what got you to where you are and stuff, and just kind of, give appreciation to your coaches, the family that brought you up and stuff, the kids that are currently going through high school that have big dreams as well. So yeah, it's very heartfelt, and it's like always meaningful.
I love to hear you said your dad played at Bama.
Mm-hmm.
What position again?
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver at Bama. Talk about him and what you've learned from him about whether it be competitiveness, things that you learned about being an athlete at that level, that caliber.
From a young age, like I seriously just remember competing with my brother, and my dad just made that our lives pretty much. Like I remember playing ping pong almost every single day with my brother, and I still remember the first time I ever beat him. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I finally beat him, and then like I slowly just started beating him more and more and more, and I finally got to the point where I was better than him. So like just things like that, when you're coming up in a household like that where everything's a competition, even your dad's getting out there and kicking your tail and horse, and just playing baseball in the yard, whatever the case may be, following him around to travel ball, seeing competition at a very young age, it definitely primed me for the position I'm in.
Are you doing that with your son at the moment?
He's 2.5 right now.
Never early enough.
So I get the golf clubs in his hands. I like do things, and I'll like show him like, hey, this is how you hit the ball. And then all of a sudden he grabs one hand, and he's chasing the dog, trying to hit the dog.
Yeah, my wife gives me a hard time because I don't let my son win at anything right now. He's 6, and I'm like, he goes up for a layup, I'm
Just get out of here.
Not in here.
Not on, baby.
Talk about the big brother effect. Was anybody, when you first came to the big leagues, did anybody take you under their wing and sort of show you the way?
Yeah, I would say Kyle Hendricks was that guy for me. When I first got to the big leagues, even when I was in the bullpen, he was always talking to me. He was one of the guys when I first transitioned from the bullpen to being a starter again at the big league level. Like, he always reassured me that I had the stuff, I had what it took, and just him, putting that confidence in me, watching him go about his business every single day, it really gave me a ton of confidence. And watching him and listening to him, just because, he's been around the game so long, he's done so many amazing things, and he's just such a great person, such a great teammate. So I would say that it was him.
Speaking on the bullpen too, you guys are making some good additions right now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about with what's going on over there, dude? It's pretty special. Yeah,
it's been a very exciting off season for us. It's been good getting in the clubhouse, getting familiar with everybody. My locker mate right now is Presley from the Astros, so it's been awesome getting to know him and stuff, talking to him, picking his mind. Same with Kyle Tucker. Just it's always good, like I said, when new guys come into the locker room from different teams, just picking their minds, asking what they saw if I faced them or anything. I played Kyle Tucker a lot in high A, so we had some familiar ground there and stuff. But it's been a really exciting offseason, a lot of good additions. It's going to be a lot of fun this year.
Yes, it is.
Dude, I'm wondering if Tucker's going to wear batting gloves. He's a no batting glove guy, which I think I've always respected.
We were talking to him about it. He said he started wearing batting gloves because of the pitch clock. He didn't necessarily have time to go down, put dirt on his hands, do everything that he wanted to do to make his hands feel good. So he started using batting gloves.
The challenge system. Have you guys started using it during spring training yet?
We're supposed to start using it this spring training in some games, some stadiums have it. I saw a video of, I believe it was Yu Darvish pitching on it. Yeah. And it was a pretty cool video of how they did it and everything. It looked like a strike, but it ended up being a ball. Right. I pitched on it. I had one rehab start in Iowa last year before I came back when I injured my hamstring. I made one start in Iowa, and they told me the system was being used, but I didn't necessarily know what that meant. Okay. And something I noticed was the approaches in AAA with the ABS system were completely different than what I was used to in the big leagues. I remember I'd throw an 0-0 fastball and something that gets swung at 100% of the time. I let go of it, I see it, it's that pitch gets swung at, and they're taking it. And it's and you throw another pitch, and it's all their approaches are based around the ABS system. And from what we can tell, it's the walks go up, it's harder to throw it in the zone, vice versa and stuff. So hitters are becoming more patient. They're waiting till it gets deeper in the count because it's more difficult to throw strikes.
So I hate the fact that he's thinking about not you, but the talk is you're thinking about going up
Taking.
against a system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Instead
yeah,
of competing against the guy, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, exactly. There's like a third party now. It's like it's odd, and I like I said, I wasn't very familiar with what I was doing. I didn't know what was happening. It was just like I'd throw the pitch, the umpire would get it in his ear, he'd call it a strike or ball.
Is there a delay at all?
No, there was no delay,
Okay.
and it didn't take till like after the inning. I like asked a question about the pitch. I was like, "Where'd you have that?" And he was like, "Oh, they're using the ABS. Like, if he calls it a ball, if he calls it a strike, it's a ball or strike." Like,
Weird.
Wow.
yeah, it was
That's
weird.
so weird.
Weird
I-
situation.
Yeah. I think there's, I think we've talked on weekly about it, but I think there's, and you could probably speak to this, is it manipulatable? Like as far as you can throw big sweepers that clip the outside, does it have to be the whole ball that's on it? I don't understand how they're measuring it.
It's one of those things, if it comes into effect, pitchers are gonna start
For sure.
finding ways to manipulate it. If it starts like allowing, like, the plate's like a three-dimensional thing. So like, if you treat it three-dimensional and you're throwing like a huge sweeper that ends up like coming in and like catching the back part of the plate or something, like that's a gray area. Like it was never a strike until like it got to the plate, or like the curveballs that are going straight down, tip the very top of the zone and end up going in the dirt. Pitchers are gonna, if that becomes a system, pitchers, like, why wouldn't we try to take advantage of that? Throw breaking balls in the dirt every single time that clip the zone. So
Hitting's already easy enough.
Yeah,
so-
it's really easy.
yeah.
Dude, I don't know how they do it.
I can imagine Kershaw with that curveball on that
Yeah.
thing.
Oh.
Just
Especially if you just have to clip the zone, right?
my
That's such a good point with does the back of the plate or does it have to cross the front?
like the little bit that I threw on it in AAA, what I started picking up was like the slider to the back foot to a righty for me. That part of the zone, it wasn't quite clipping it. It was going right before it, heading to the back foot, and they would lay off it every time. But like you're saying, there was room back door for it. What might we would probably think is a ball, it's able to clip it, and it doesn't get really swung at much. So I could already tell that there was like some things I would be able to like manipulate.
Did you learn that back foot slider from Kershaw? You just mentioned back foot slider anchor. That, I mean, he, like yourself, at one point was a reverse split guy because your ball was cutting in on those righties, but he was eating righties alive because he would just throw that back foot slider and they swing right over it.
It was the alt site in 2020 when we kind of started developing the slider for me. I always had feel spinning the ball. I was able to like make the curveball go straight down, go sideways, and then finally we were like, let's just add the slider to the repertoire, and it just took off from there. It skyrocketed. I was able to just aim it down the middle, let it take off the back foot, throw it for a strike more comfortably so than the curveball sometimes. So it became a strike pitch, a chase pitch. I was able to use it immediately, and that's what got me into the big leagues.
I wonder now in the big leagues, like lineups, they have platoon. It's like the team versus lefties, the team versus righties, and they talk about the spin, the horizontal movement, and all that. So if you have, say, a lefty cutter, righty two-seamer, if that ball is moving the same way, so if that ball, anything going into Moose, he would destroy. So if it's a lefty two-seamer or a righty cutter, wouldn't you want him facing that type of movement instead of just a righty-lefty?
Exactly, and I mean, I started seeing this since I've been a starter in the big leagues. I've seen the teams that I've faced multiple times. I've seen them try different approaches. You know, put more lefties in there, see if that works. Put more, like, stack it all righties, see if that works. And something that I got used to early on was teams stacking it with all righties. So then I would just pretty much not use the sinker that day. I would just go fours in on their hands, sliders off of it. If I get them opened up all the way, then you can just backdoor the four because it looks like it's a mile away. And then same thing, if they stack it with lefties, it's the same thing. I get the four going away, throw it for strike, show that I can throw the spin, everything going that way for a strike, get them committed out there, and then you just pop a sinker. If they either lay off of it, swing, break their bat, swing over it, ground ball. That's just kind of how you have to, that's how I attack lefties versus righties. And obviously hitters are different. Like, you know, Bryce Harper can probably get to the sinker in. He has before. He can probably get he can get to it if he knows it's coming. So those guys, you just got to be able to mix and match, you know, keep them off balance.
It's crazy, man. That's really experience, you know. You're 4-5 in the big leagues now. That is learning through that tough time against Bryce. It's like, I need a weapon now.
Yeah.
I need this, you know what I mean? So you're covering, I'm sorry to break this news, you're covering an all-star game this year in Atlanta. You're going to be doing stuff there. You've gone to all-star games, you Colorado, Tampa Bay. you brought up leadership earlier and when you felt comfortable to be a leader. And I remember the one All-Star game I went to, David Ortiz talked to everybody. It was his last year, his last season playing. And it was his farewell tour and all that kind of stuff. And he mentioned to everybody in there, he's like, listen, when you guys go back to your team, you're going to be, the leaders. People are going to listen to what you say. So I felt that confidence to be a leader and go back and, start speaking my opinion because I wanted to win and you want to pull your other teammates with you. But the All-Star games, that experience and then picking up certain things with guys in the outfield, pitchers, whether it's around the cage, what are some things that at the All-Star game you picked up on or that happened in your All-Star game experience and you're like, that was pretty cool. I'll never forget that.
For me, my All-Star game was talking and just being around Clayton Kershaw. For me growing up, he was like the guy to watch, follow, like you wanted a career like him, get to the big leagues as soon as possible and then just have a magnificent career at the big leagues. I mean, he's one of the best lefties to ever do it. So me being able to watch that as a kid growing up and stuff, it was awesome. And then be able to share a locker room, be on the same All-Star team as him, got him to sign a ball for me, told him how much he meant to me in my career and stuff. That was really cool for me. Kimbrel was also in the All-Star game that year. I had already played with him with the Cubs, so I'd already known him and stuff, so it was good to talk to him and, pick his brain some more from what I could and stuff. It was a great experience. It was really cool. It was, awesome. It was on my birthday, mine and my son's birthday. We had the same birthday. It's
that's cool.
7-11. I got to pitch in the All-Star game on that day, so it was really special.
Jack and Moose got the same birthday, baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Take Bo to watch Home Run Derby. You got to do that. That was in Miami. How about that?
That was fun. I remember my first All-Star game was in Cincinnati, and just going there, I was so nervous. I'd never been nervous playing Major League Baseball, but like going into the clubhouse, like you're with the best players in the game this year, and you're just going in there, and everything's a little different than your normal clubhouse. How'd you respond to that? Like walking into that situation with literally the best players in the game are in my locker room.
Yeah, I was doing a good job of just making sure I was soaking it all in.
Yeah.
It was just such a special moment for me and my family. It was, on my birthday and stuff. So I was trying to make sure I was watching the Home Run Derby with my son, taking those small moments in, making sure to talk to my teammates, pick their brains and stuff. I really didn't have like a whole lot of time to like get nervous about the people that I was around and stuff. It was more so there's so much going on. You got to be in different places. You got to answer questions and stuff. But it's definitely a whirlwind. But it was just one of the coolest experiences, especially just being able to enjoy it with my family. Brought some of my family from Mississippi up for it and stuff. So it was just really cool.
That's awesome.
My first All-Star game was actually 3 years after I retired, when I went to Dodger Stadium and I was in the Home Run Derby catching in the outfield. That was great. Thanks. Yeah, I learned a lot from that.
That was your All-Star
wonderful.
moment. I should have said All-Star moment.
That was my moment.
You should have been an All-Star after your Tommy John.
Look,
The
if
pitches
there
after.
was a postseason All-Star team, I think I would have made a couple. But mid-year, I was a slow starter.
Oh, sorry.
Had to get over
I
the
get it.
off-season eating. Yeah.
Have you heard
Yeah,
his
tough
Tommy
matchups.
John story yet?
I haven't.
It's unbelievable.
Which one? So the first one, I was similar to you. That's why I was shocked that in 2021, I had my first one in 2008. I was back in spring training games at 10 months, and I made the opening day roster 11 months after I had my Tommy John surgery, and I led the team in appearances that year, and I wasn't allowed to go back to back. So it was kind of a nuts thing.
Wild.
I had another one in 2014, took a little bit longer, broke my throwing program down completely after 11 months of throwing, and then restarted again. So I felt like that I could still pitch now. I still feel
a good
unbelievable that my elbow's still there. So yeah, that was really strange that you were able to come back that quickly, and now they take so much longer too.
Especially like I said, I never really had elbow problems leading up to that or anything of that sort. And it was just like one pitch it went, and it was super weird. Felt like I could keep throwing. Like if they would have told me to finish the start, I would have finished the start. Like I felt like I could keep throwing. It was very odd.
How many pitches did you throw after you
I finished the inning. I blew out on a pitch velo that I'd never touched in my life before. And then I felt something, same thing, but I'm like, oh man, that's a little different. Couple of breaking balls. I was still throwing like 94, 96 from down here. And the next day, as soon as the adrenaline stopped, we were doing the high five line, and my elbow kind of just locked up, and it never released until the next day when I went in. And it's 8 a.m, day game in DC, and I went in. I was on the highest of highs. Just had my first save in the big leagues. Looked like I was going to be the closer for the Braves in at least the short term. And then I finished the game and I'm like, oh my God, I can't move my arm. So the next day I was done. We tried to rehab it for about a month just to see what could happen. I was fine at 120 feet, but the minute I jumped on the mound again, it just zingers all the way down my arm. So yeah, I had to get operated on.
Pitchers, man, I don't know how you do it, man. My arm hurts playing first base.
Yeah, I throw five
I'm out there
balls
throwing
across
BP. I'm like, I don't got it today.
I throw
You know
five
what I
balls
mean?
across the diamond. I'm like, Haas, I'm gonna need you today, bud. This is not getting there.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, Shota. What's his arsenal like? Anything you pick up from him? Because he was last year in the beginning of the year, man. He was the best pitcher in baseball.
He was unbelievable all year. I mean, watching his day-to-day has been so impressive. I mean, the first thing is for someone to come into a new country, not familiar with anything, he was comfortable right away. The confidence levels.
Even in the media, it felt
yeah,
like he
it's
was
insane. Like the first day in the
Funny.
locker room, the confidence level, the comfortability, just talking to everybody, using his translator, picking up on English right away. And then you watch the guy go about his work, watch him throw his bullpen. And me and Jamin watched his first bullpen. And we're like, this guy is going to be problems. So like, he has the four seam that just takes off. He has the splitter off of it. And then he doesn't even spin the ball that much right now in the big leagues. But like when he has that, like he's able to spin the ball when he wants to and manipulate spin. So I feel like there's even another level to his game that guys in the big leagues haven't even seen yet, because he's pretty much been the four seam and the splitter most of the time. I mean, he's going to get to a spot probably where he has to use the spin, and it's like I said, it's going to take his game to a whole nother level, because now you're worrying about 4 pitches instead of dominantly 2.
You're at the point in your career where it's about your execution. If you're going to have one guy in the division that gives you fits that you mix it up with every now and then, but you're at the point in time in your career where if you just mentioned, I got this for the righties and then the lefties, I'll hit them with this four-seamer and do that. So in having that confidence, when you look around the league now, is it like you think now, okay, I need some sort of weapon to get lefty pitchers out? And are you a guy that can grab the iPad or watch a guy in the league, work on it in that bullpen, and then be able to go and try and implement it right there in the season?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a great example. I threw a bullpen today, and I told Tommy before my last live, I wanted to get to a more comfortable spot with my changeup. So my next bullpen, after this next live, I'm going to throw a ton of changeups because that's what I want to work on. And that's kind of when I'll use the iPad for, looking at pitches. If I throw something that looks good in my eyes, I like where it ended up, I'll, look at the iPad, see what those numbers were, and then try to replicate that. Even the slow-mo camera where like it's coming out of your hand, just so I can have a mental image in my head of like what the ball is doing out of my hand. All that stuff helps out a ton. It's just like, reaffirmation of what you're doing, just kind of confirming, what you're doing is working. So like today I was working on change-ups, and I probably threw 30 pitches, probably 15 of them were change-ups, and I was just working on execution, making the movement right, making sure it was in a good spot leading into spring training games, because that's kind of what I want to work on, is change-ups and sinkers.
Love that. So hold on. So I knew what I was asking you, and then I fucking veered off into the iPad dumb question. I don't know why I asked that, but so being a young guy and having that confidence of executing what you need to execute, having success. When a young guy comes up to the big leagues and their idea of that execution is different than what you need to succeed at the level, how do you go about leading in that? Do you let him learn the hard way? Do you give him some sort of heads up? Because you don't want to take away his overall game plan of what got him there.
Yeah.
So how do you juggle that?
It depends on the player. You got to have, you just come across so many different personalities in the locker room, especially pitchers. Like pitchers can be crazy at times.
Especially relievers.
So you got to know who you're talking to. Like, does this guy want to talk to me about what he's working on in his bullpens or in the games or like whatever the case may be? Porter Hodge is a great example for me. He's a really up-and-coming guy in the bullpen, really broke out last year. Electric stuff, just unbelievable stuff. I've watched a lot of his bullpens. I've watched him in games now. Live arm, great cut ride, great spin and stuff. So like someone like that, you just want to make sure they never lose their confidence, because you know how good they are. So like I feel like that's a big gap people struggle with when they're first coming into the big leagues is, do I belong here? Like, do I have the proper confidence to compete at this level? Because, you're going against grown men who've been in the big leagues for 10 years and stuff. So, like, there's definitely, like, you can be skittish when you first get into the big leagues and stuff, but you also got to remember you're very good also. You're there for a reason. Your stuff plays and you're in that position for a specific reason. So I would say the main thing is just making them confident in who they are and why they got there.
Along that, can you walk us through, one thing I love talking to starting pitchers about is their preparation from day one until day 5, the day they start. Can you walk us through just kind of generally speaking, and how do you prepare for a lineup, so to speak? Like what is that? What's that process?
Mine's
like
probably a
for
little
you?
different than others.
Yeah, I mean, I see you smiling. I'm curious to hear.
It's, Craig Counsell always makes fun of my like pitcher meetings because it's literally what I was saying. It's
He's a
very
simple
simple.
man,
Like
man.
most of the right-handed
maintenance,
hitters, I'm
simple
doing
man,
this. Most of the lefties, I'm doing this, and we go through the pitchers meeting in like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. I like it that way. I don't want to overcomplicate. Like if I get 1-1 on this guy, I want to dump the change up. That's what I've been thinking about all night. Like I'm not like that at all. I'm very in the moment. I'm where my feet are. That's the most important thing when you're pitching is like you can't have your mind somewhere else. You can't be thinking about what the chart said or what the sheet of paper said. Like you kind of have to be in that compete mode. Like whatever I throw is going to get the guy out, and you just kind of have to be in that frame of mind, or you have to have that confidence level.
So you don't really care like the guy's strengths, whatnot. Is he righty? I'm doing this. If he's a lefty, I'm doing this.
I mean,
essentially.
If there's something that is just absolutely standing out, like Bryce Harper, for example, let's just go with him. He is mashing fastballs on the inside part of the plate, then yes, I'm going to stay on the outer lane until he starts committing to that. So there's obviously extreme examples like that, but for the most part, facing the righties this way, lefties this way. So like before the start, we'll just start on the start day. Go over the lineup. You can ask Haas. I'm very normal on the days I start. I'm walking around the locker room. I'm talking to everybody, drinking coffee. I like to treat it as if it's a normal day. I don't want anyone to feel uptight walking around me or anything like that. I don't listen to music really. Don't have AirPods in. I just foam roll. I treat it like a normal day. Go do my meeting. Go through my start. As soon as my start's over, I come in, I do shoulder work, kind of do everything I need to do, and then day 1 is pretty much a recovery day. I spend a lot of time in the sauna, cold plunge, just doing the proper recovery stuff in the training room, weight room, all that stuff. And then day 3 is usually my bullpen day, and I usually take something from the start that I might not have been perfectly happy with, and that's usually what I'm working on in the pen, whether it's four-seam execution, sinker execution, whatever the case may be, and then I get that to a good spot in that bullpen to make me feel good for the start that's in 2 days.
That's cool. It reminds me of so Mike Tomlin, the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have this approach when they're preparing for their next team. They say we're going to view them as nameless gray faces. Doesn't matter at those days. It was the Tom Brady Patriots era, but we don't care who we're playing. It could be the Patriots. It could be like insert any NFL team, but we're preparing for the nameless gray face so that we can focus on ourselves. We're not worried about who we're playing against. And it seems like you have that very similar approach. It's like, I'm facing a nameless gray face. You're a righty or a lefty. I'm going to trust myself. That's
cool. I got a coaching question for you about messaging, because that's a great point. When you said you're careful with Haji on how you message it because you don't want to take away his confidence, and I think that is huge. His situation, how my big thing about coaching, there's not one size fit all, every case is different. In my opinion, Steele's situation is different because the league hasn't proven that they can hit his stuff yet. He doesn't need to make that adjustment. A matter of fact, when you try to overthink it and mix in a change up were probably the times you got hurt, and it's the times you're saying, that's what I'm getting myself in trouble. I just need to keep to my strengths until the league proves otherwise. Usually when guys come up, they come up with good stuff and the stuff gets hit. And you understand, hey, maybe I need to make some adjustments. So each case is different, but the messaging that the coach gives the player is huge. How do you go about that messaging when the case is so different than that?
I think it comes down to a couple of variables. Number one is like, what are the numbers saying? Like what's happening? And then number two, like it's a conversation with the player. It's like, how do you connect with the player? What is this player seeing? Because I think a lot of times coaches will look at something happening and then they'll come and they'll just say, oh, you need to change this, 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 and this. As opposed to, especially a major leaguer, coming in and saying, hey, what do you got on this? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? Why do you think this is happening? And it seems like you've had some coaches that have helped you, have taken that approach where to not instill doubt into you, but almost to kind of just talk about it. I don't know.
Yeah, Tommy Hotovy, the pitching coach for the Cubs, is, I would say, one of the best communicators I've ever like been around as far as like player coach and stuff. I mean, he's had so many different personalities like on the pitching staff that he's had to manage and stuff, and he does such an incredible job of communicating the right way with different players. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is you got to, as a coach, you got to know the player, his personality, how he ticks. Some the old saying, like high school coaches, like there's a kid that has to be yelled at, and there's the other one like you can whisper to and he gets it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's different and they receive information in different ways. Tommy, the pitching coach, he does an incredible job of identifying right away like what's going to make this player better, how I can communicate it to him. And he does it in a progressive way of like, you know, your next bullpen will go on the minor league backfields and we'll, you know, iron this out, we'll work it out. That way you're not in front of all the cameras and stuff working on something. Because that's another thing, like you don't want to be working on something new, you know, in front of everybody. Like you want to get it refined, get it where you want, and then you want to showcase it.
I love that we're on the coaching because I was trying to find a way to get to this. Counts.
I was just going to ask the same question. This is beautiful.
I got to play for Counts in Milwaukee. Talk to us about Counts. And
he's awesome. He's obviously a brilliant mind in the game. Just how prepared he is on the day-to-day basis is what stands out to me. Just, you know, he's not one of those guys that are gonna come up to you and, you know, break out a conversation every now and then. But you know, in his head he's playing out situations. He's already thinking about the game, and just even in spring training right now, you can tell he's already playing out situations in his head and stuff. So it's really cool to, you know, just be up close and witness stuff like that and how a brilliant baseball mind works and how he thinks about the game. And me and him's built a great relationship now at this point, and we get along great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Milwaukee, you just see Counts just kind of like walking back and forth, and then like just everything is, his brain's just moving. And it's like, Counts, you got to take a breath, man. Like, but his brain is just rolling. And then he's the guy, I don't know if he still does it, but he always picked up the phone and called the bullpen, and he was always on the phone, like making sure like he trusted everybody, but he was like so involved and invested in what's going on. He was just locked in. Does he still do that?
Yeah, he's the one making the calls down to the bullpen.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't want to say he runs a tight ship because that makes it seem like he's strict. He's not strict.
But he wants his message.
Yeah, like he's gonna do it like when this game starts and he's managing. Like he's doing it his way. He has a way of things to be done, how it's supposed to be done, how it's supposed to look, and he makes sure it's that way. And you can tell that, like when he's managing.
And it's got to be refreshing for you guys because honestly, what a weird situation that was. I mean, Rossi is rolling as the manager, and it was pretty late in the offseason when this happened. Counts all of a sudden is the manager of the Cubs. And not only that, I mean, this is your division rival. You guys were just there in September playing meaningful games, trying to go to the postseason. And then all of a sudden, you're listening to his message in spring training, and you got to be ready to go to war for this guy, baseball terms essentially, obviously. But I'm sure that was an adjustment that first year. But now, year two, it's got to be a sense of relief. Like, yes, you love Rossi always and you're loyal to him, but now moving on as professionals, you don't have to worry about what that situation was. Because whether or not you don't talk about it in the clubhouse, at the end of the day, it's a reality, and it's kind of happening in your clubhouse, the talks and all that. So year two, it's got to be refreshing to just be able to seem like you guys can go out and play now.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you can already tell he's like more comfortable around the spring training facility. You know, first year anywhere for anybody, you're not going to be walking around with the same amount of confidence as if, you know, my instance, I've been in the same organization for 11 years.
Yeah.
If you're new to the building, you're not going to walk around and be nearly as comfortable. But you can definitely tell in year two now, you know, just even around spring training, even at CubsCon a little while ago, he's very comfortable with where he is now. He knows where everything is. It's awesome to see. Just kind of watch him start to not come out of his shell. I would say he was already out of the shell and that stuff, but it's been awesome to see.
Oh, Steele, he's like, hey, I know you're the manager, but it's year one in this building for you.
Yeah, that's what I said to him when I introduced myself.
Oh,
He'd
lay
love
down.
it too. Counts would love that.
Were you still wearing a fighting necklace when I faced you? You still a fighting
No,
necklace guy?
I was never a fighting
I
necklace
feel like
guy.
that's what I remembered about Steele is he held on to the fighting necklace a little too long.
I've had
What
some
year?
chains. I have some chains I wear.
You're making good money now, buddy. Last question, pitching. I wanted to get it to you, Pete, because Steele mentioned something great about sometimes when you're wired as a professional pitcher, the iPad is a real situation. That is a real situation that you are battling these metrics, this iPad. And we talked about the other day when you go to Australia, it's a professional league, but it's refreshing to you at the same time because I'm sure there's not iPads in the dugout, and there's that compete factor and those basic fundamentals. So for a pitcher, like hitters, it's always, dude, just timing. Get your timing early, everything else will follow. What is that reset button for a pitcher, even at the professional level, if you're stuck in the iPad?
It was always feel for like my generation. It was always about feel because we didn't have the resource. And when you talk about the fact that you would throw a pitch, feel it, see it, play the eye test, and then you'd go check the metrics so you have a baseline as to where you want to be. That's how I think the best use of the iPad is. Whereas we get stuck, I think now, everybody's so obsessed with instant feedback every single pitch, doesn't matter what pitch it is. It's like you throw a pitch in a bullpen and you got to see what it did. You throw a pitch in a bullpen, it's never making adjustments and seeing if you can correct it without looking at something first. And I don't know what it's like in the Cubs, but I feel like league-wide, metrics are here, metrics are not going anywhere, but there needs to be a balance in how you use it.
Totally, and the balance for every single player is different. Like I was kind of explaining for myself, I don't use the iPad a ton. They obviously have it there and they're getting the information, but I don't ask for it very much. I like kind of what I was saying, I go off the eye test. Like if I throw my 4, I can see it bury in on the right-handed hitter. You know, visually, I can see the sinker go that way and stuff. They never bring anything up to me normally unless I'm asking about it. But pitchers are different. There are some pitchers, like they want to see, they get a good rip on a 4-seam, they want to see what it did right away. And everybody's just different. But what I always remember and what is important is getting the guy out. That's the most important thing is, like, you can throw the best bullpen every single time, but when it comes for your 5th day, you got to go out there and do what you're supposed to do and get outs. Like, you can go out there and throw it underhanded. If you get outs, you get outs. Sure. Like, it doesn't have to be the nastiest sweeper or the most electric fastball. Like, outs are outs.
Right.
Boosie, like he said, what I think, Pete said metrics are here, there's no doubt. I think you and Steele, very similar in the fact that you guys, simple, those core fundamentals is kind of what you stick to. To the opposite end of that question, is there anything metrics-wise that you learned being like, hey, I'm usually a simple-minded guy, but this is useful information that I think I can take advantage of?
Yeah, towards the end of my career, I started looking at the iPad a little bit more with metrics, exit velocity, and all that stuff, just because it is in the game now and it is going to stay. What I was more concerned at was my launch angle of keeping it as low as possible, but in the air, because and that's just in batting practice. Like, I want to keep it low as possible, but in the air, because in the games, when you mishit those balls, you're not going to hit it like that all the time. When you mishit them a little bit, that becomes a home run or a double in the gap. You mishit it underneath, that becomes a screaming line drive. So I wasn't ever trying to like elevate it. So that would be the one thing I always looked at was, you know, that angle of like exit.
Is there going to be a point, is there ever going to come to a point in time where it's almost like you want to turn your phone off before competition? Is there going to be a point in time where you don't want to talk metrics maybe an hour before the game and just compete and be ready to go?
I definitely don't.
Just too early,
especially before the game. I don't even care if the iPad's there before the game. If I'm throwing my stuff over the plate and I feel like it's competitive, I'm ready to roll.